Jack Mulligan for president.
And I was like, calm down, Sarah. Okay.
No, I will not.
Jack Mulligan for romance hero, sure.
Listen, if they're all going to be criminals anyway.
Why not Justine Mulligan for president? Do better, Sarah.
Oh, all right, fine. Justine Mulligan. What about both of them? What about bringing back monarchy?
Oh my God. You know what's okay. So everybody, we are talking about The Devil of Downtown by Joanna Shupe today. I am about to get in my car to drive to OHIO. Here it's summer. I'm in a different spot. It's amazing. It's an amazing time. But we were talking about politics before we started, and
which you should never begin your Monday morning.
No.
With a discussion of American politics.
No.
And we weren't talking about the obvious thing. We were talking about something else entirely, and just how shitty it is when your elected representatives don't answer the phone when you are calling their office.
Yeah. You know what is also sad right now? You also have a very bad and maybe possibly criminally bad governor.
Mayor.
Oh, is that Kathy?
Oh, you're talking about, oh no, okay, that is our governor.
I'm like, no, sure. Listen, all the way up in New York right now. And Illinois typically has had every governor ends up in jail, but our governor right now, Governor Pritzker, is, I don't know, maybe the only good billionaire. I'm sorry, I have to say it. He is, our state right now, it's so progressive. It is so amazing. I love living here, and I love you, Governor Pritzker. I love you. Bye.
Well, he probably listens. So
sure. We should introduce ourselves also.
Oh, this is Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels, and I write them, and I'm a Jack Mulligan apologist.
I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor, and I am also a Jack Mulligan apologist. I think
he did nothing wrong. My sweet baby.
Okay, so everybody, The Devil of Downtown is the third in Joanna Shupe's Uptown Girls series. Now, this has been a long-time favorite of ours, and we finally are doing a deep dive. So if you haven't read it, you should. Now, what's interesting about this, I want to sort of say, because I think I might have picked this one, is this and the book before it, The Prince of Broadway, are probably two, if I was making a list of my all-time favorite, romance series,
1,000%.
Right?
This is top 5 romance series for me.
Yes, for sure. And Mamie's book, which is the first book, The Rogue of Fifth Avenue, is good, but the next two really all whatever buttons I have in the romance world, boop, 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 there they all are there. But what's interesting is I love Florence and Clay. They're at book 2, but I reread Justine and Jack more. And I think it's actually because I have revaulted Florence and Clay. You know what I mean? I might need that someday. Whereas Jack and Justine are just perfect and just delightful and just make me feel happy. Kind of in the way Devil in Winter does in some ways.
Yeah.
A real, I just can sink right back into this book.
I mean, if you open up my brain and poked around in there, you would find Jack Mulligan. Jack Mulligan is it's like a McLean hero come to. He's pure Sarah McLean's id. There's nothing about him that I don't love. I love anybody. I love any man who uses violence for good. I don't come for me. I just do.
The patriarchy comes for us all, and sometimes we can't uninstall those buttons,
well,
right?
No, but
they're hardwired.
Listen, if you're gonna get all that violent man shit and the broken past and the need for restitution and revenge, man, when you're doing it to stop the next Triangle Shirtwaist Fire.
I mean, really,
when you're doing it to end child labor, when you're doing it to just pleasantly eat a woman out in a bowling alley, then I have no notes. That is the patriarchy I support.
Now, here's the thing, though, that although I've said, I've reread this book a lot of times, I'm a targeted rereader. I'm a scene rereader. So this is the first time I've reread it front to back in a while. And I think it's also going to be really interesting for us to talk about how, this book is not dark romance, even though Jack Mulligan is a criminal. And I think it's going to be really interesting to talk about how there's sort of like a bigger conversation that I think we're not really going to have right now, but that is kind of sometimes happening about, sometimes there's like what I feel is like some retconning of dark romance, like, right? Like, well, what is the branch of the family tree this came from? And I think the thing about it is like Jack Mullen gives up his criminal empire at the end. He does not pull Justine into it. He is drawn into the light.
We don't have to have this conversation because I don't believe there is a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to defend.
No.
And I have seen it. I have seen the people
Sure.
referencing us saying like, we always talk about old school romance and we don't understand. And then we like have questions about the morality and ethicalness of dark romance. And like, you guys, it's not the same. Like, fundamentally, it's not the same.
It's doing different work.
And, like, I think if you go back and listen to one of our many, many episodes about old school romance, you will understand why we feel that way. And I'm not interested in doing it because I just want to spend my morning
Okay.
thinking about my baby Jack.
I just wanted to, like, clear the decks because that was, like, one thing that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, he comes. This is morality chain. I mean, is it even really? Here's what I would argue. Is it even morality chain?
No.
Does Jack Mulligan murder and kill? Yes. But is he always on the side of like the poor and put upon? Absolutely. Listen, when they tell the story, listen. There's
Sarah's
so
like,
much. I just love this book so much.
I know.
Listen, Joanna Shupe is one of my favorite romance novelists.
Yeah.
Like, she has been since she was writing Regencies, and it was obvious that she really didn't want to be writing Regencies, but she was doing it anyway.
Right.
And now, listen, those Regencies are terrific. But if you want, like, if you are like, I'm sick and tired of England.
Yeah.
Like, Joanna is, she's textbook. There's so many things I want to talk about. But we should probably, like, talk about the series and, like, explain.
Like some sort of logical way. If you are interested in seeing what Joanna can do in like the more like mafia, it's not even really dark romance, it's mafia romance. She also writes as Mila Finelli, and her series, The Kings of Italy, is terrific. And it has like a mob boss who does not repent, right? Who continues to be a mob boss. And so if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, also it's self-published, so it's like super hot.
Mm-hmm.
You can get essentially like Jack Mulligan scaled up or down.
I mean, you can see the bones of that mafia series in here.
Yes. And that was interesting to me. It's like, exactly.
It's like Cressley, when she was writing her mafia books, you could see the bones of what she was doing in the earlier IAD books.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Right. There's that it shines through.
You see what she's aiming for.
All right. So the Uptown Girls series is 3 sisters of a very wealthy New York scion, right?
If you're a Hamilton fan, they're based on the Schuyler sisters, but pulled forward to the Gilded Age, so the 1890s. And the Schuyler sisters, if you're not a Hamilton fan, there was a very, very famous, like, powerful man in the 1700s in New York, and he held immense wealth and immense political power, but he only had girls.
Yeah.
And they were like very wealthy and like very chaotic. And one of them married Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah. So in this case, we've got Mamie. The first book is Mamie. She marries, well, it doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter because Mamie marries a guy who grew up in 5 Points and then becomes a lawyer, who gives up his own kind of criminal or like, you know, past to become a lawyer for the Legal Aid Society.
Yeah, he sort of creates it.
Yeah, he like builds the Legal Aid Society to help impoverished families and new to New York and the United States to navigate this new world.
Yeah. And even though he's like kind of, his name's Frank Tripp, even though he is sort of a good guy, there's something about him that makes...
Well, he knew Jack.
Yeah,
like,
New York
on
society. Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of can tell there's something about him. So it's definitely like a bit of a forbidden romance, but nothing like what we get in book 2, which is Florence, who is really the wild child of, and like a stunning beauty, right? And she wants to open her own casino for women because she loved gambling with her grandmother and her friends. And she like asks Clayton Madden, who runs a really well-known casino, to help her teach her the casino business and everything else. And that book is spectacular. I almost like can't talk about it without like I don't want to like sully it with my dumb talk. That's how I feel about the Prince of Broadway. The final book, The Devil of Downtown, should have been called The King of New York. I'm just going to say it, but you know, I'm not in charge of titling things. We get Jack.
Neither are we, for the record.
That's probably right. Exactly. I'm sure they're like, you can't do that. And she was like, come on, really? The King of New York, obviously. Rogue of Fifth Avenue, Prince Bright, must be. So then we get baby sister Justine, who has been in the first 2 books just like a shy little mouse.
Yeah, like sort of a side character who's useful in terms of like when her sisters want to go do shenanigans.
Yeah.
She's like going to cover for them at home.
And it turns out that she has went up to her own business, but it's of the do-gooder nature, right? She sneaks out and works in tenements.
Name is Destiny. Justine has a pure directive for justice in the world.
Yes.
And believes that the world can be just.
And she really like lives it, right? Like she's not really interested in like ball gowns and do all this stuff. And she uses all of her pin money to like essentially donates to like various causes. But she also, it's not just money. Like she goes and like works in these places.
Yeah. She's been like passing out bread in soup kitchens since she was 13 years old. Like she like would pay her governess to like look the other way while
Right.
she like went to do good in 5 points. Yeah.
And so what happens at the beginning is she goes to Jack Mulligan because she needs help finding someone. One of her pet causes, and it does interact with Frank and Mamie in the Legal Aid Society, is helping women whose husbands have abandoned them. And so these women essentially are like, I am with these kids and I have nobody to, there's no financial support.
Because women can't get divorced.
And there's no child support. And so she goes off and tries to find these women, occasionally with the help of a police officer and sometimes with the help of Jack Mulligan, who is, well, as I said, the King of New York, right?
So the tee
I'm going to let you talk about this.
Yeah. The tee up to this is like, so Jack Mulligan is like the biggest, essentially a mafia don. Like he grew up on the streets. His mother was a sex worker. She worked in a brothel, and he sort of like grew up very connected to this like kind of dark side. She died when he was 12. He never knew who his father was. And he was like tossed out onto the streets, and he joined a gang, and then like rose up through the ranks and like took power and then started claiming territory.
Right.
And now Jack Mulligan runs the 6th Ward and 5 Points. Like
he essentially merged all the gangs under his control,
on
right?
a map of Manhattan. He like basically runs everything south of like, I don't know, 14th Street is Jack's territory.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's probably wrong, but let's say that it, whatever.
Sure.
Joanna can correct us. So he basically runs the whole show downtown. And this guy, and when the meet cute here, is Justine going, like Justine cannot find this man.
Yeah.
This like errant, this like husband who's left, right? A deadbeat dad who like, so as I said, women can't get divorced in America and in New York if their husband goes missing. Like basically a husband needs to be around. So she goes to Jack because it turns out he is in Jack's employ. And she says, hey, I'm looking for this guy and I need you to tell me where he is. And Jack is like, who the fuck are you?
And why am I strangely attracted to you?
And then she's like, she basically is like, surely, Mr. Mulligan, you are too. And here's the other thing. Jack is like, of course, like handsome as the devil, big as a house. All his clothes are bespoke. He's basically like, he dresses, at one point, it's like he dresses like a duke. Like he is perfect in every way. But when he walks in, listen, Sarah immediately comes online because the moment he's on the page, he's covered, his fist is covered in blood. And she's like, instantly do-gooder, right? Like, are you okay? And he's like, oh, it's not my blood. And I'm like, oh, I love him so much.
I love him so much. And later he's getting a manicure. Oh my God. In one of like the best scenes in this book. Sorry, we can talk about his hands later, I promise.
Anyway, everything about this man is perfect. Like, just built perfect. So she's like, I need to find him. He's like, abandoned his family. He's got 5 kids and this wife, and like, he's a monster, and I need to find him. He owes her money. Like, she deserves to be cared for in this.
Right.
And he's like, over my dead body, do you get involved in my business? Like, I'm not going to give you any information about this man. And she's sort of horrified, and we are too. And like the needle is thread very carefully here in the first scene, where he's like cold as ice, and like it's clear that he doesn't want anything to do with this woman. And then it becomes clear that actually what's happening here is he doesn't want it to be perceived that he can be swayed.
Yes, right, exactly.
Right, which is going to become like a huge piece of this puzzle. Like, Jack Mulligan cannot be swayed. The perception has to be that he is king, and every decision that is made is his and his alone. And so what he ends up doing is saying, like, bring the woman here.
I'll handle it. Yeah.
And he's like, I will be the one who handles it, not you.
Yeah.
And of course, Justine is like, nope, I have to be a part of it. And he's like, fine, then you stay and you owe me. And listen, and you owe me.
Oh, yeah.
A favor of my choosing sometime in the future is my favorite fucking thing in romance.
Because it's perfect.
First of all, it's such a great and elegant cheat in the writing. Yeah, I will say, as a writer. But it's a way to like get something to happen that you just need to have happen. Right. But on top of it, it immediately brings 2 characters like into orbit.
Yeah.
With each other, because like they are now, there is a transaction to be made here.
Yeah.
And then like that first scene happens and whatever, everything's sorted out, and you see instantly that Jack is like pure nobility behind his like bloody fists.
Of course.
Oh my God, I love him so much. And then you realize like instantly that this man is fully gone for this woman.
Completely.
It's from the jump. Everybody's always like, he falls first. Fuck, he falls first. Like, Jack Mulligan would lay down in front of traffic on page 10 of this book if Justine told him to.
Yes.
This is like prototypical he falls first. Like, he doesn't even fall. He's just like hers. He belongs to her. And she's like, la-di-da.
Oh, it's so amazing.
Oh my God, it's so good. And all he thinks about, like, instantly, he's like, I wonder how it would be to eat this woman's pussy for days. Headphones in, I guess, everyone.
Oh, I mean, it's the devil of downtown. If they didn't expect that, I don't even know what to tell you. This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by artist Mary James Ketch. She is an oil painter and has prints on paper, canvas, and also takes commissions, and she is a huge romance fan.
Yes, Mary James Ketch is not only a reader of romance novels, she is also an avid listener of Fated Mates, and we are so excited for this ad, because today, June 19th, Mary James's collection of oil paintings called Book Lovers, which features women reading books and explores the pleasure of the relationship between a woman and her book, is live. So you can head over to her website at maryjamesketch.com and take a look at these beautiful, evocative, lush paintings of women reading. And my favorite, and the one that is currently showing if you look down at your podcasting app right now, is called Thank God This Is on a Kindle. It's this beautiful blue painting of a woman sitting and reading, but her thighs are pressed together and she's holding a Kindle. And it's honestly like the perfect depiction of a romance reader, and I'm in love with it.
So if you are interested, one of the things I love is that you can purchase the original oil painting. There are also prints, as we said, on paper or canvas. So there's really something in everybody's price point and everyone's budget. And there are also lots of other really great oil paintings on her site, not just the this new Book Lovers collection. So please go check out Mary James Ketch, and you can check out all of her originals prints. Or if you are really like, I love this, she even does commissions. Thank you to Mary James Ketch for sponsoring this week's episode. Jack Mulligan is perfect, awesome, amazing, and I love him, right? But one of the things that's also really interesting to me is that Justine, we've described here as like a real do-gooder, but she is not annoying. And I want to talk about because I think that is like a real...
Oh, it can be really annoying.
It can be really annoying, right? Like this, like I'm a rich girl do-gooder can be a real tough needle to thread. And I want to talk about why she's still an interesting character, even though she is a good character. So first of all, I think part of it is she's not judgmental, right? Like she really sees, like, I have a task I want to achieve and I'm willing to pretty much do anything to accomplish that. And if that means going in and talking to Jack Mulligan, then that's what I have to do. And that's that.
Yeah.
Right.
Or paying somebody off for information.
Right.
Or,
like,
yeah,
right,
there's
there's a way in which her pragmatism is such another big part of who she is, that it's not like just like pure goody two shoes. I also think the thing about her is that she is on a journey of like sort of kind of like self-respect, right? In terms, or like people should respect me in what I do. I'm tired of just being like plain old boring Justine. And this has to do with her sisters. And we talked briefly about this on the sibling episode however many weeks ago, but I was really fascinated by the way she stood up to her sisters. And
that scene is great.
Right? And her family and her like kind of culture. And so she has been kind of doing all the kinds of work Justine is doing, if people are aware of it, is the kind of work that is acceptable for rich girls to do, right? And when she
it's condescension, right? It's like I condescend. I like bring my wealth.
I bring my blankets.
You know, the best. I bring my wealth to like the people who need it, the poor huddling masses.
Yeah, right. And the first time she really has to like push up against that is when Jack asks for his favor, which is that he is like, your brother-in-law is having this huge benefit for the Legal Aid Society, and I want you to take me. I want to escort you, because he wants to see Julius Hatcher, who is a character from a previous series, because one of the reasons Jack wants out of, he has a dream of essentially like becoming like a beer magnate instead of a mobster, right? And he's like, Julius Hatcher has the infrastructure I need to make this a reality. It's like with refrigerated cars on trains and all this stuff, right? And
he needs money.
He needs money, and he needs this one guy's money because he needs a railroad. So anyway, he is like, you need to get me in here because this man won't see me, but he will be there and I can be there. And this is where Justine is like, I don't know if I can do this. It is one thing to do the work I do. It is another thing to parade you in front of, right, New York society. And he's like, don't worry, I have a plan. And his plan is to get up on stage and essentially shame all of the other rich people by saying, I'm giving $50,000 to the Legal Aid Society. Surely, and he calls out the names of like other rich men in the audience. Surely you are going to be giving this much, and you are going to be giving this much. And it's fascinating to watch him essentially play the game. And if you've ever seen The Wire, I thought it was like really like Stringer Bell goes on essentially like a similar journey. Like the biggest criminals of all are respected businessmen. And if you really want to get in on the grift, that's where you go. And I think
Exactly. The
it's,
people with power are
back to
not,
our,
are
back
the
to our
people with
thesis, right?
the people with money and influence, and that is it.
Mm-hmm. But her grandmother's there, and she's not as close to her grandmother as Justine is. And it's so funny. Her grandmother's like, "Oh, are you one of the, Philadelphia Mulligans or whatever?" And he's like, "No, ma'am, I am not."
This is also like this is real Tommy Shelby energy for those of you who are
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders fans. Like by the time Tommy and Jack go on the same ride
Yeah.
together also, where like they come to realize, like they both understand like how the game is played.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I really think that that's why this is such a, the arc of the series is also heading this way. Right. And this is like one of those reasons why, like, you could read these books independently of each other. But when you get to like Frank Tripp, like, I want to, help these people, to that being their fundraiser and what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right. And,
it's very rewarding.
Yeah. To see Jack Mulligan kind of play, like, yeah.
Because
like, know
Jack
how the
also
game is
is
played.
in that early book. Like he's, and he's a bad dude in that early book. Like, we see his arc over the series too. It's a really classic romance series. Part of the reason why it works so well, I think, is because Joanna's not trying to reinvent the wheel here. She's just delivering you like the very best of what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that often we get trapped in this kind of like, oh, we have to write. I think a lot of times, especially in historical, especially now, a lot of writers are going like, I have to write an important book instead of thinking like, I have to write a book that slaps.
Yeah. I have to write a great
also,
story.
like,
right.
layer in, what I want to talk about. And this is, I think, where I want to talk about the historical of it all.
Yeah. Okay.
Because as I was, look, there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about historical romance recently and about, all of the things that are true about historical romance in general over the last 50 years. It's, it's very cis, it's very white, it's very, it's very het, like all of that stuff. That said, what Joanna is doing here, so she's, first of all, removed the book from Regency. Like over the course of her career, you can see she started in the Regency, then she wrote the 400 series, which was like about British girls and American boys. Like, they're sort of, or like the kind of combo there. And then, this series, I think, is really where she starts to just like, it's full throttle, right? All gas, no brakes, fully American. She starts to like get down in the weeds with get down in like the dirt with, with criminals and casino owners. And like, we're just seeing Joanna like cook. And what's interesting about this series though, is that if you are writing historicals out there in any world, in any time, this series is a really great text for you to look at. Because what Joanna is doing here, I think she does possibly better than anyone else. And I include like the greats. I include like Loretta Chase in here. I think Joanna is really showing us as writers how you world build historical in a fascinating and exciting way.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So she's writing Gilded Age New York, which is not, we do not all have this like text, this mental model in our brain, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to learn, all of us have to learn Gilded Age.
Right.
In a way that you don't have to learn Regency or Victorian because you've been reading those books forever if you're a historical reader. But we all come to Gilded Age together kind of with less of a mental model.
Right.
And we're seeing like she builds this political structure, she builds the world, she shows you the like inequities. She shows you she does not shy away from like the history of it all, but it's all in service to the romance.
Yes.
Right? We don't see anything that isn't ultimately about Jack and Justine making it happen. And I think what's cool about it is you have these moments like where they go early to a pool house or like a pool hall, and there's it's people are wagering on horse races, and then like there's the bowling scene, and there's the opera, and like the way the 400 is operated, and the way Tammany Hall is operated, and in the hands of like a mediocre author, this could be so boring.
I know.
All of this could be just info dumped. Joanna is the best. I would argue possibly the best of us at doing this. And the reason why I would maybe crown her that is because she's doing it with a time period that isn't the one that we've all been reading for 50 years. And so I think if you are writing historicals and you have not read this series, you are doing your craft a disservice, because it is so much fun and it moves so fast. And you see all of it.
This is great advice. And I edit people who are writing non-standard historicals, right? At a different time. And it is incredibly hard. I'm like,
hard.
You have to teach the reader without being didactic. You know what I mean? And I say this because I mean, like, what I mean by that is like the readers are not coming to these books being like, I would like to learn about, whatever, right? The Great Depression or the World War I or whatever it is, right? But I think, I have a client who is writing a book set during the Revolutionary War. And I am constantly like, we're dumb. Americans have shitty history instruction.
Oh my God.
I don't know what that means. And if I don't know what that means, then people don't know what it means, right? Because I don't think I'm dumb, but when it comes to history, it's true, right? Yeah.
But it's really difficult, Jen, to explain that. Like, it's difficult to explain it in an economy of language. It's difficult to explain it and also make it not seem like we're pulling you out of the story. Like, pause romance, play history.
Right.
Like,
right.
This is the challenge of writing historicals. It's why often readers who come to historicals are afraid of historicals, right? Like, they don't want to have to read a history book. And I'll be totally honest, I have DNF'd several historicals over the last couple of months. Obviously, I'm not going to name them because we don't do that here. Where like the first 2 chapters have been such a massive historical info dump that like I, who love a historical, I'm
You're
done.
Like, I drifted away. It's not historical fiction, right?
Even historical fiction, though.
Yeah,
like,
can be boring.
The job is storytelling.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Pocket Bookshop in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
We love Pocket Bookshop here at Fated Mates. They did our Best of the Year boxes last year, and they are this incredibly fun, beautiful bookstore in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So if you're out there and you've never been, you should go. And if you're there over the summer and you would like a place to stop and buy books, this is the place for you. It's in this beautiful Victorian building with this wonderful wraparound porch, and it's just perfect. And the romance is right inside the door because they are very proud to have romance on their shelves. And just to prove it, if you are not able to head over to Pocketbooks in person, you can join their new Swoony subscription box. And for $40 a month, you'll receive 2 to 3 brand new romance novels hand-selected by the team, usually 2 trade paperbacks and a mass market. But sometimes you get like a hardcover and a trade paperback. Generally, you get about 15% off every month. There's an intentional effort to feature queer, trans, non-binary, and BIPOC authors in this subscription box. And to give you an example of what they look like, in July's box, you'll receive Triple Sec by TJ Alexander, For Real by Alexis Hall, and A Liaison with Her Leading Lady by Lottie R. James, which we talked about on our summer reading episode. Subscribers are also invited to join a new Discord server to discuss each month's books. So like, this is not just a subscription box. It's also a community of readers who are queer friendly, who are anti-racist, who are super feminist. And we need those kind of communities more now than ever.
Yeah, so subscriptions are charged on the first of every month, but they send out all the information with that month's books a couple of days in advance, so that if you have to change your order or cancel or skip that month as needed. So they're really looking to make this as useful and as friendly as possible to their subscribers. So to find out more, go to pocketbookshop.com. So that's with like a double S, Pocket Books Shop. And then you will click on subscriptions and surprise boxes to be taken information if you would like to subscribe to the Swoony subscription box. Thanks, as always, to Pocket Bookshop for being a friend of romance, a friend of the pod, and for offering such great ways to support their bookshop.
I was thinking about it on the reread here with the Shirtwaist Factory, right?
Yes, right.
She comes, so history, people with knowledge of, Gilded Age New York or union laws, right, know about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, which was tragic. I mean, like, and all the things that are coded into this book about the Shirtwaist Factory are Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, facts, right? And so, like, first of all, that's a tricky one because it's very traumatic and devastating, right? But she hits that note twice. Like, she explains, Justine explains it to the police officer and then explains it kind of again when they go and discover that Jack has sort of solved the problem.
Right.
Right. And you get such a perfect picture of that.
Yeah.
Of that warehouse, of everything about what's going on in there. And it never feels like you're reading a history book.
Right.
Instead, it feels like, she's put it in the mouth of a character who cares.
Yeah.
And she's talking to characters who care.
Right.
And suddenly we find,
or in the case of the cop, right, who doesn't care. Right. Or like, right. Or I mean, or some cops don't care.
He
right.
Does
some
sort of like,
no, that guy does, but it's like some of them, right? I think but yeah, I mean, and I think that is, I guess I would say that is the trick to me, is it's in conversation.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's not.
So,
but then it's like, who
deft lift.
Yeah. And I think that this is like, when you think about exposition broadly, like, it can be really tricky to do outside. I think, as you said, people think, oh, I have to do it at the beginning of the book. And you don't, right? You don't
want to know.
Right?
You have to trust readers are going to go on the journey with you.
Yeah. And you have to trust that the characters are who people key into first. Am I interested in these people, right? Mm-hmm. If Justine had started off like a long, tirade about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory or working conditions, even though we all care, we'd all also be like, meh, this is not what I'm here for.
Right.
So yeah, it's brilliant.
The world building, I've been thinking a lot about world building too, because of conversations that are in the ether, and like the world building in this book, just from chapter 1, like the way, like, we see Jack's bloody fist and we know the world he comes from, right? We see Justine, we see him like clock her name, clock her, clothes, know immediately who her family is. Like, we clock the class difference between these two from the jump. We understand the power between these two from the jump. Like, and there is never a moment where Joanna like pauses, explains the 400.
Sure. Like, right.
We don't need that.
No. And it's what's interesting.
And I think there is fear I want to just also say to new writers, I mean, and existing writers who are still doing the job, right? Like, our instinct as writers is to think readers are kind of dumb. I mean, not really, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
I said it, right? Like, there is, but it's like, what do you need to tell to serve the story?
Yeah, but I think our instinct, and I don't think this is just about historical, I think in general, right? Like, our instinct is to be like, we have to put it all there, because what if they don't understand what I'm doing? Is like, And you just have to trust that, like, it's all going to get in there.
Yeah. Right. Right. And
So
the readers
to
are
your point, Jen, put it in dialogue, move forward, and like trust that an editor down the road at some point is going to say what you said.
Yeah. And I think it's real. Yeah. So I just think that it is interesting. I would say the other thing to me that's interesting is this is a book about class in a way that like Florence's book is about gender. Right? Like that each one of these books is really and then like Mamie's book is really about like society's rules or about you know what I mean? Like it's almost like the inverse, but the thing that then works is because of the order, by the time you get to Justine and Jack, even, you know, I mean, you can read this on its own, but like they've already peeled away layers of like what this means to be a woman in this world, or what this means to be, you know, sort of leaving, like flirting with society's rules, but still wanting to be a part of society, like determining your own place. And so therefore, when you get to Justine and Jack, you can like kind of like lock right in to who they are in a different way. So it's not just that this book is so skillfully done, it's that this series is so skillfully done.
I mean, can we talk about the romance too, though?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the characterization of these two is so strong. And like I said, like he's so gone from her from the jump, but like there's this beautiful moment, I don't know, maybe a third of the way through, or where they're in a brothel together. They're in this brothel and they're doing like some recon. They're looking for some guy, right? And they're invited into this like they're climbing the steps like up to where the rooms are, and we're in his POV, and like he's thinking about his childhood, like, and he's realizing that, and he's like shutting down because he's like, this is not how, first of all, he does not run, like he runs a dance hall, like, but like his girls are safe, like this is a real Derek Craven-y kind of vibe, right? And you know, but like he's kind of receding into the memories of his past. And then Justine is like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you want to wait outside? And he's so shaken by the idea that like some person has seen him, has like, and that he thinks he has hidden this, and he has effectively hidden this from everyone all the time forever.
Sure.
But like, this is long before, you know, they're even, you know, fucking. Like there's nothing she just is so attuned. They vibrate on the same frequency. Yeah. And it is beautiful. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And like he just so desperately wants her. And there's so many little microtropes that like are amazing in this book. Like no one's ever been in his house.
Oh,
right.
Listen.
Right? I mean,
I didn't even know.
I've never had a woman in this bed. Like
like stop right there.
Why? Why do I love it so much?
Well, and oh my God, Sarah, did you love his scars?
Did I love his? I mean, it is like Joanna Shupe was like, I'm going to write a book for Sarah McLean.
Yeah, here we go.
You didn't have to dedicate it to me. It was just for me.
Yeah.
Page 1 to page whatever, 400.
So I've said that Justine is his do-gooder, right? And yet, she's also very pragmatic. And so she is just like, I seem to be attracted to this man. Maybe I should
I am in lust with Dane.
Yes, let's do it. Now, here's one of my favorite parts about this book. So, oh my God, you've already mentioned it, but like, so he has a secret house that no one knows about on Bond Street.
With a secret tunnel.
With a secret tunnel.
A secret tunnel? I do. I mean, I love all of it.
Right? No one's ever been there, but he has his own bowling alley. He's like, let's go bowling. And she's like, okay, what kind of trouble could I get in? Well, at his own private bowling alley in his house.
Excuse me. All the trouble. Sports romance girlies.
You did the bowling romance. You did not know you needed, right? So, but yeah, I mean, and this is it. And there's this part where, and this part I love. Her sisters sort of figure out that she's hanging out with Jack Mulligan. And they're like, you got to stop. She's like, oh my God, these two are ridiculous. But
these fucking sisters.
I
do
know.
want to come back to that whole scene.
I do.
Where I wanted to literally punch both of them in the face.
Yes.
Mamie especially
Yes.
deserves cold storage.
Yes. Like I was really outraged by the behavior of these two women. Like let Justine be Justine.
With the hypocrisy.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah. I was like really upset by it actually. Like I'm pretty pissed at these two. But anyway, Justine's like, okay, they think I couldn't be out with him at night. I'll just be with him during the day. And it's like this sun. So like they are in his bed and the windows are open and they're making love. You know what I mean? And it is.
And she's filling up all his dark places.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
It is. It's so good.
Well, when he starts to see her, there's like a moment where like a switch flips for Jack and he starts to see her like laughing and smiling. And he's like, I want it. Like,
all the time.
That's what I want. I just want like these moments of joy from her.
Yeah.
And there's something so romantic and perfect about
it really
why
is.
are men not like this? This is all I want in my life. I just want you to punch bad dudes and just want me to laugh all the time.
Well, and I think like this scene, like the whole idea of like these interludes where they are like alone in his home, like in his bed, right?
I know.
They remind me of in Managed when Scotty and Sophie finally go to Italy and they're just like alone in this house, like just like right, like just
luxuriating in each other.
Like the lovers have made a world where the rest of the world does not exist. Like more books like this. I love it.
And this like kind of begins, that sun scene is perfect, right? But this begins where, there's this like very strong plot, like driving this book, right? And I think that's the other thing about Joanna's books. Like she always has something going on that keeps the pages turning. And there's this moment where they find out in this brothel that this guy comes every Thursday, right? And so the sex worker who he goes to see every Thursday is basically like, he comes at 9. And so Jack is like, I'm going to bring my guys. I'm going to meet him at 9. Justine, you are not coming.
Right.
And then he shows up at 9, and this is in like a very, very like bad part of town.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like standing cloaked in the shadows. And he's like, Mother of God, why are you here? And she's like, well, I wasn't about to let you go in there and confront him alone. And then she's like, and then I thought like maybe after we could go back to your house and like do stuff. He just goes full static brain. Like
just like,
yeah, okay.
Sounds great. You're right. Obviously, you should be right here.
This is an excellent idea. I'm so glad you're standing in this dark corner.
Yeah. Well, and so Justine's plot, right? I mean, it's not just that there's one plot, there's two, right? Is I'm finding these men and the cops won't help me because they're too busy to do women's work, right? Yeah. And if I could be a police officer, then I could do this work, right? And she legitimately is like, I'm going to be a police officer so that I can help women. And Jack's like, okay, I can make that happen. Only he essentially like overshoots, right? And Justine's going to be hired as a detective, and she's like, I don't want to be a detective. I want to work my way up through the ranks, right? And
it's ding dong.
I know, and it's just like it's so like this is where Justine's like so like oh my God, like it's almost hard to believe how like naive she is in that way. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Jack is being torn, right? He wants to like kind of start this beer business, which he knows will be incredibly profitable, right? And go kind of, this is his way out. But at the same time, he is being threatened from below by Trevor O'Shaughnessy, right? And he is like, well, I have to kind of also defend my territory. And you can see him also being torn between like sort of like, how can I let go of this by letting go of this? Now, this leads me to what might be one of my favorite scenes in all of romance, which is when he's getting a manicure, right? Like back to Bloody Fit, from Buddy Fliss to manicure. God, and so in come Frank Tripp and Clayton Madden.
Oh, it's the
to essentially like tell
Because
him
their
to
wives are like,
go talk to
what
Jack
on
Mulligan.
earth?
And these two ding dongs actually do it. And it is so, and he's just like, oh my fucking God. Like, is this what my life is now? And it is. And all of them are like equally horrified, but
Yeah, they're
also
just
just
all
like, this
just
is what it
disappointed
is
in them. This
to
is
be in love with the
embarrassing
Green
for all of
sisters.
us. You know
Oh,
what's
it's
so
so great.
Listen,
God,
as
it's
a writer,
brilliant.
though, in that moment, you have this moment where the whole the tricky thing with writing heroes in like MF, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you ascribe to the heroes must be kings theory of romance, which is my whole
Sure.
theory of romance, right? Is that all heroes must be kings, no matter what they do,
Yeah.
right? So Frank Tripp was a king, and then Clayton Madden was like a real king.
Yeah.
And you have these two characters who are like established royalty.
Sure.
And then you have to put on in the third book, you have to deliver like the king of all kings.
The king of New York, Sarah.
The king of New York, right? And that is incredibly difficult.
Sure.
Because you've like Frank is dialed to 11, so Clayton has to be dialed to 12 so that Jack can be dialed to like 25, right?
Yes.
And then it is so hard to do. And I am so mad at the rest of the world for not respecting what romance has to do in these scenarios. Like, these characters are larger than life for a reason, but being able to level them up, and in that moment with the manicure scene and Clayton, like the whole bit, you have this moment of like, oh, here are like three royals coming together, and like Jack remains the one to rule them all. Why is she so good at the job?
Right?
She's also so fast.
Masterclass. Yeah, in just like how to get it done. It really is pretty amazing.
I mean, if you are not reading Joanna Shupe, you are doing yourself give yourself something nice. This week's episode of Fate of Mates is sponsored by Melissa Diamond, author of Paging Dr. Hart.
Okay, so we've got Dr. Tiffany Hart. She has had a past filled with danger and betrayal. And so when she is at work at the hospital, she does not fool around, right? Everybody calls her the Ice Queen, and she likes it that way until she meets red hot new hire Dr. Ethan Clark and loses her cool.
Oh,
he's
boy.
arrogant, annoying, and stupidly handsome. And, I think this is great. So Dr. Clark, Ethan, that is, right, comes from a long line of famous doctors. He was actually really happy to transfer to Tiffany's hospital and like really forge his own path without sort of everybody knowing everyone in his family. And so we've got a fiery redhead Ice Queen going head to head with Dr. Ethan Clark. They go on a work trip, and all of a sudden they have to share close quarters, and all of her past finally catches up with them, turning this kind of doctor medical romance into a like catapult to get right into the romantic suspense area. So can this prescription for disaster turn into a happily ever after with Ethan and Tiffany? What's going to happen?
Sounds so fun. Melissa Diamond, the author, is also a doctor. So if you are looking for your medical romance to come with a side of realism, and also the kind of realism that comes with one bed, only one bed, reverse grumpy sunshines, enemies to lovers, he falls first, who did this to you, touch her and die, forced proximity. This one is definitely for you. Paging Dr. Hart comes in two versions. There's a sweet version, which is kissing only and closed door, and a spicy version for those of us who prefer our romances to come with big heat. Melissa wants all readers to be comfortable, so you get to choose what works best for you when it comes with her books. If you'd like to read Paging Dr. Hart, you can do so in print, ebook, or with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now and be brought to buy the book. Thanks to Melissa Diamond for this week's episode. Um, okay, what else? Sex. I mean, the sex is off the charts.
Oh God, yes, it's so
She's,
great.
you know, Joanna's historicals are some of the sexiest out there. Um, she, you know, and I think also that's the benefit of writing. It feels historically like accurate in a lot of ways, in the sense that the Gilded Age feels evolved.
Yeah.
Like it feels, you know, like we're all doing butt stuff now. I mean,
I'm sorry.
listen, I mean, you know what I mean? Like it just feels like, you know, the language is more crass.
I do know what you mean. I'm sorry. I just always think back to that. The real bellwether of the butt scene was that one scene in Sex in the City. Where's Miranda? Right? Do you remember this? And the guy's like kind of
No.
stick. You don't remember this? Okay.
Wait, maybe. Tell me.
All right. So she's in bed with this guy, and he is like laying like kind of face down, and he keeps like putting his butt up. And
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And she goes back to like, you know, their brunch they have every day because somehow they all have time for that. And she's like, are we doing this now? Like, is this what we're doing now? And I just remember at the time being like, it is? And now I'm like, yeah, it is, of course. Obviously.
Wait, are we doing this now?
Obviously, this is what we're doing now.
So
Funny.
Clayton, I mean, like, not Clayton, Jack. It's more just it's not that. It's just that you have this sense of like everything in the Gilded Age, because you're also dealing with like much more modern.
Yeah.
You know, you're moved forward, whatever, 80 years. And so you have this moment where like everything feels like it can be like heightened and more modern, including the sex scenes in a lot of ways. You know, I do what I can, but Joanna like takes it to another level, and they're great. They're super hot.
I do. I love it. So now I think it's like, you know, how's this all going to work out right at the end? Because there has to be some sort of collision course for a do-gooder and a criminal.
And one from her own family, right? One from her family.
Right. And so what happens is it believe it or not, is a scene instead where Justine essentially gets what she wants, right? Which is to be told she can be a detective. And she had gone to ask this guy from Tammany Hall, and he'd been like, get the hell out of here, you dummy. Right. And then Jack asks, and all of a sudden it's like a yes. And it's a real crisis for Justine. And she's just like, wait, what? No, wait, what Mamie and Florence told me was going to happen is happening, which is I have been offered something I want, but it's going to come with strings that I don't want and that I cannot live with, right? Like this, I won't be able, and part of it, again, it's like the pragmatism. She's like, it's not that she even objects to Jack asking. She asked him to ask. It's that she realizes, like, I will never be an efficient detective.
I'll always be Jack's person.
I'll always be Jack's person. I'll be a woman. They will never trust me or like me. I will always be tainted. The work will be tainted because of the way because of the way it came about. And I really liked that. And so she just essentially literally looks at Jack and is like, we're over. And I mean, this poor man is like, wait, what?
I know, but for 375 pages, he's been just gone for her.
But I did what you wanted me to do. But I didn't. What did I do? I mean, it really is like devastating for him. Oh, God.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry she confused you, you poor baby.
Right. And then, you know, he gets kidnapped by Trevor O'Shaughnessy. And he's like, okay, I'll like give it all up. Fine. And then Justine comes to the rescue with his men. And I just was like, this is everything I want in a romance novel.
I know. It's like an old school pirate romance in that moment where you like, just all the like bones of the genre are in this book. And I think that's the other reason why I love it. It feels like going home reading this book. Like it feels
that's a
like
great way of putting it. Yeah.
It feels like reading the very best books of the beginning. You know, where like these heroines are just full of fight and the heroes are larger than life and they just love each other in like this screaming out loud way.
Yeah.
And all you want is just to like lie in bed and read.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just don't want to put it down.
Right. And that's it. Like there are, and I think it's going to be different books are going to like press that button for different readers, because I think it's like, as you said, it's like this feels the way reading this book makes me feel the way I felt when I read romance when I was a teenager, right? Just like, it just felt like so magical. And I think like a lot of Joanna's books make me feel that way. The Kings of Italy series makes me feel that way, where I am just
but like don't
woo!
you wish you could hand this to somebody who's never read a historical and be like, read this one first, start here,
yes,
and then show that, because it is so evolved, right? Like it is not the books that we read when we were young. Like it is the books we read that when we were young, like all grown up, like and in wonderful ways. Like it is more of all the things we want, and also like new things that we did not know we wanted in 1993, right?
Yeah, right.
And now I feel like if I could just press this book into the hands of like every person who's like, I don't understand historical, like I could save the genre.
Well, yes. Okay, that's a big. It just went
fine,
somewhere.
Tall order, whatever.
Okay, Joanna, you didn't know you were saving the genre, but
like if this is what we're talking about, right? If it's like historical is dead, everybody's bored by it, nobody likes it.
We don't want to learn.
Feels old. I don't want to like learn about history. Like this is the book.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. So, I mean, it just is perfect. It's a perfect book. It really is. I think it's like I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, I just think it has.
I don't think anybody listening to this episode is like, well, I think I'm not sure how they felt.
Can you wrap it up for me? Can you summarize?
I mean, if you here's what I want though. Like, if you haven't, I know a lot of you weirdos listen to the episode and then like decide if you want to read the book, I think.
Stop calling our listeners weirdos.
I'm sorry. But it is a little weird to listen to us blather for an hour and then be like, and not have read the thing we're blathering about. I mean, I wouldn't listen to us do this. So anyway, when I call you weirdos, you guys, it's because I love you.
It's sure. Same thing when she called y'all dummies.
They're lovable weirdos. I love them. I mean, I'm a lovable weirdo too. So but I know that a lot of you do this. If you have not read this book and you go out now and read this book, first of all, go read this book. Second of all, if you do, please come back to us and tell us if we're crazy. Like, and if you are one of our listeners who's like, no historical for me.
Yeah.
Which, like, fine, that's okay. You're allowed to like what you like. If you're willing to just give this one a
one
try.
shot. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like, even if you don't like it, would you please come back and tell us about it? Because I'm desperate to hear, like, the response to this book from the outside world. Like, it's one of those, there are some people say like, oh, I'm reading this for the first time. And you think like, oh, I'm really jealous of that.
Oh,
like,
God, yes. Right. Like, imagine.
I really wish I could be reading this for the first time again. If you're reading this for the first time, please like give Jen and I a little bit of love and like tell us how it felt.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, that's how I feel about the Prince of Broadway. Like, I'm just like, I want to wait long enough so that when I read it again, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm reading this amazing book again, because what an experience.
If you want to really do yourself a great big favor, read the whole series.
Yes.
But don't read the whole series if you're not sure. Like, if you're just not sure about historical, just read this one. Because I actually think this is a better first historical than Florence and Clayton.
Because of the setting stuff, because of the way it sets up the world, for sure. Like, you know what I mean? In a way that is...
And all the tropey stuff. Like, it's really tropey.
The first one has a great scene where they have sex on a pool table, though. I just want to shout out. In the second scene, there's a great scene where they have sex essentially, like, in front of a peephole, looking into, like, a brothel. And then this one's just sun-soaked Jack Mulligan's bedroom. Oh, listen.
Bowling into cunnilingus.
I mean, I didn't know.
Oh, my God. The moment, we didn't even talk about my favorite moment in this book, which is when he's like, Oh my God. I gotta pull it out.
Okay.
Because I can't. I gotta get
You gotta
it
pull it
right.
out.
Oh, I gotta pull it out.
Sorry. I'm 12, everyone.
At the end of the bowling scene, like right before they move to his bed, right?
Yeah.
She says she like cracks a joke about how like everybody says that he's not romantic, and he says, "I'm about to show you more romance than your little body can possibly handle." And then she says, "More romance than I can handle. Goodness, someone is full of hyperbole tonight." And he just thinks, "No mercy." He's like, "How dare you think I'm
How dare you
hyperbolic?"
question my ability to be romantic.
He just thinks, "No mercy." And then it's great. Jack Mulligan thinking no mercy?
Yes.
It's my Roman Empire.
Every week you have a Roman Empire, Sarah.
Listen, I know.
It's fine. It's a great phrase. It's amazing. I think the other thing I guess I just want to say, like when you said this was really tropey. So one of the things that this book, okay, and we've talked about this when we talk about conflict, there's like a romance axiom, right? Which is like, if he is a firefighter, she's an arsonist.
Sure.
And I think it's easy to see how like these two are really like opposites in that way. But the great Sherry Thomas, I saw her talking about conflict. And one of the things she said is she's like, that can be like a little overwhelming for people. And she said, I like to think about it instead as this is the person who sees through the lies you tell yourself. And I think that this book is also really brilliant for that, right? Like the lies Justine tells herself about like what she's willing to do or not do to be good or get things done. You know, he like sees right through that in some ways and points out like just how kind of ruthless she is in her pursuit of her goals, just as he is. And I think she also sees through kind of the lies he tells himself about like how bad he is, right? In some ways, right? That she understands that he is already moving on an arc towards goodness. And a lot of that is driven by this love he had for his mother and this deep respect he has for women who are trapped in situations not of their own making and the things they have to do to get out of them. And I think it's really, really like not just a perfect book, but like a really beautiful love story.
Yeah. Oh God, Jack. I'm so bad. I'm the worst. I'm terrible. I'm
No
a monster. Mercy. Let me go save these children from child labor. Let me unboard the windows in the Sherways factory.
Stop.
But don't look at me. I'm a monster.
Let me just be with Justine Greene.
He's the best.
Yeah, it really is. This, and you know what? Justine's a good character, but this is Jack Mulligan's book, right?
Of course it is.
Just like I would say, you know, she's great, but I really think that he is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just like Prince of Broadway is Florence's book. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But that's okay.
It is okay.
Justine's pretty great either way.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys, we like this one.
Just a little, just a tad.
What are we doing?
Nothing.
It's coming on summer. July's full of weird things. We're doing a Q&A.
Yeah, who knows? Listen, we're recording now.
We're just recording a bunch of stuff.
Who knows when this is playing? Maybe you already
lots
heard it.
Of surprises. If there's something that you would really like to have us talk about, message us, send us a tweet at FateMates, send us an Instagram message at FateMatesPod. You can leave comments on any of our episodes, including this one, when you've read Devil of Downtown and agree with us about how amazing Jack Mulligan is, at FateMates.net. Our show notes there, if you go to FateMates.net and click show notes, you'll find all the information about, the episode and, extensive notes. If we talk about stuff, there'll probably be some New York City stuff in here.
Sure.
And then what else? I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friend Jen Prokop. We are Fated Mates. We come to you every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. No mercy, you guys.
No mercy.